What would you do if a stranger rode onto your ranch and, with a smile, answered, "That sounds like my lucky day"? In this heartwarming 1800s American frontier story, a worried father searching for a good husband for his daughter meets a humble drifter who changes their lives forever. From broken corral rails and cattle drives to a stormy night that proves a man's true character, this tale is filled with faith, hard work, and unexpected love. If you enjoy emotional cowboy stories and old Western adventures, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. And now, let's get started. In the spring of 1874, I stood beside the weathered fence of my ranch near Abilene, Kansas, watching my daughter Mary mend a saddle strap with careful hands. The prairie wind carried the smell of fresh grass and distant rain. Yet my thoughts were heavy. Mary had turned 20 that winter, and though she was hardworking, kind, and as steady as any rancher I had ever known, every decent man in the county seemed either already married, too fond of whiskey, or afraid of the hard life that came with cattle and open land. I had not meant to speak my worry aloud that day, but when a tall drifter rode through our gate asking for water, the words escaped before I could stop them. The stranger dismounted slowly, removed his hat, and thanked me with the manners of a gentleman despite his worn coat and dust-covered boots. He looked to be in his late 20s with sun-browned skin and eyes that had seen many miles. "My daughter needs a husband," I said with a weary sigh, half joking and half confessing the truth. The drifter's mouth curved into an easy smile. "That sounds like my lucky day." Mary nearly dropped the saddle strap, and I found myself laughing for the first time in weeks. The fellow introduced himself as Samuel Carter, a cattle hand traveling north from Texas in search of steady work. Before I could offer him a meal, he noticed a broken rail in the corral and asked if he might repair it in exchange for supper. I watched him work through the afternoon. He handled the hammer and nails with the confidence of a man raised on frontier land. There was no laziness in him, no boasting, and no complaint about the heat. By the time the sun began to sink, the rail was stronger than it had been before it broke. That evening, Samuel joined us at the kitchen table. Over stew and cornbread, he told stories of long cattle drives across the Red River, of blizzards in the Dakota Territory, and of nights spent sleeping beneath the stars with only a saddle for a pillow. Mary listened quietly, but I noticed the way her eyes followed him whenever he spoke. When supper ended, Samuel thanked us again and offered to sleep in the barn rather than trouble us for a room. As I watched him walk toward the lantern-lit stable, I had the strange feeling that the young drifter who had ridden through our gate asking only for water might be, carrying something far more valuable than a saddlebag. Samuel remained at the ranch through the summer, earning his keep from the first light of dawn until the stars appeared over the Kansas prairie. He never waited to be told what needed doing. One morning he was repairing a wagon wheel, the next he was branding calves beside me, and before the week ended he had ridden 20 miles through rough country to bring back a pair of stray cattle. I had hired many hands over the years, but few worked with his quiet determination. More important still, he treated Mary with a respect that was becoming rare on the frontier. He opened gates for her, carried feed sacks without being asked, and listened when she spoke as though her thoughts mattered as much as any ranch owner's. As the weeks passed, I began to notice changes in my daughter. She laughed more easily. She sang while hanging laundry in the yard, and whenever Samuel rode out with me, she found some excuse to stand on the porch and watch until he disappeared beyond the hills. One evening in August, a violent thunderstorm swept across the prairie. The wind rattled the windows, and lightning split the sky above the cottonwood trees. While I secured the barn doors, Samuel rode through the rain to gather a frightened group of horses that had broken from their pen. By the time he returned, soaked to the skin, every animal was safe. After the storm passed, the three of us sat quietly on the porch while the wet earth steamed in the cool night air. Samuel removed his hat and held it in both hands. "Sir," he said, looking directly at me, "when I first rode through your gate, I joked that your daughter needing a husband sounded like my lucky day. I did not know then how true those words would become. I have come to love Mary, and if she is willing, I would be honored to marry her." Mary's cheeks turned pink in the lantern light. She looked at me for a moment, then nodded before I could answer. My throat tightened more than I expected. I placed a hand on Samuel's shoulder. "A man who rides through a storm to save another man's horses is welcome in my family." 3 weeks later, beneath the shade of the old cottonwood tree, the town pastor joined their hands in marriage. The drifter who had arrived asking only for water became my son-in-law, and together he and Mary built the finest cattle ranch in that part of Kansas, proving that sometimes fortune rides through a ranch gate when a man least expects it.